we throw away 1.3 million tons of food on this planet, which is a hell of a lot of food. So 1/3 of the food goes in the bin. At the same time, there's about 795 million people that do not have enough food to live an active, full life. They go hungry. Ooh. In this country, food waste accounts for about 20% of our CO2 emissions. So that's food that goes on to landfill that's decomposing. And the food sector itself in this country produces 50 million tons of food waste. That's not accounting for the food wasted by general households, that's the food industry itself, so restaurants, supermarkets, small shops. It's a crime to think that about 20 to 40% of fruit and vegetables are rejected before they reach the supermarket shelves because they don't look right. They don't look cosmetically pretty. So supermarkets go to small farmers, that produce ends up being composted, ploughed back into the land. I just wanted to put this up because it makes sense that our population is growing on the planet. So while we're wasting all this food and getting rid of it, and all the energy and time and manpower that goes into it, all the air miles of transporting food from one side of the planet to the other, and it doesn't even get sold, it doesn't even get eaten, it just gets wasted. So there are about 1 billion malnourished people in the world, but we have enough food produced by one part of the planet to feed that other part of the planet that are going hungry. We're looking at a broken system at the moment. And there's this growing gap between people that can afford good food and those that can't afford good food. And when I mean good food, I mean, you know, you look at the food banks where they give out tins and packets and staples, but not fresh produce. So good food meaning healthy produce, fresh produce, fruit, vegetables. I strongly believe good food is a right, not a privilege. Everybody should have access to food equally. There's enough of it out there. So in 2014, I became aware of the Real Junk Food Project, a project that was started by Adam Smith. He's a chef. He lives in Leeds. He was working in Australia and he saw the amount of food that was being wasted. So he came home and somebody in Australia said to him, you can't save the planet until you can save your hometown. So he came home and opened a cafe in Armley in Leeds and started the Real Junk Food Project. It's a company, it's not a charity, it's a company. It was set up to be sustainable. So I thought, I want to see what's happening here. I want to go and have a look, but I didn't go to Leeds, I went down to Bristol because there was the Skipchin in Bristol had just opened, and I've got friends there, so I went for a visit and we went for lunch. And I got talking to Sam Joseph, who's one of the trustees of the Real Junk Food Project, and we sat there for about an hour and ranted. We ranted about food waste, we ranted about food labelling, we ranted about everything to do with wasted food. And I came back from there really inspired. I was already managing my own food waste by donating leftovers, because I run a catering company, so all the stuff that we had left over, we were donating to the homeless hostels. I'd been doing that for the kind of last couple of years. I was working from a kitchen in Bethesda, so I had a basement kitchen, and the premises above it became available, so potentially I had access to a premises. And then, so when it became empty, I thought, okay, we're going to do this. We'll do it in Bethesda, because that's the town where I live, that's the place that I've made my home. So I just made a decision there and then, we're going to get this premises and we're going to set one up, because Bethesda needs it. So, as it says there, I put all my money and not spare money, like my rent money and things like that, into securing this premises. I then press ganged three friends to become directors, and they sort of were like, oh, okay then, really? And then I started badgering people, contractors, people that would donate things to this project. Because we had this empty office space, but we had to fit a kitchen, we had to turn it into a cafe. So I set up a crowdfunding campaign. I just kind of got on with it, really. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never set up a social enterprise before. I'd never started a cafe. I'd never run a cafe. Yeah, I had an outside catering business, but it was like this great leap into something I'd never done before. And I never wanted to be a restaurateur either. I was quite content having my own little outside catering company. But it just felt like something that had to be done and something I really wanted to do. I didn't want it to be my thing either. I wanted it to be a community thing. So I was really big on getting as many people involved as possible, bringing it back to the community and making it, a project that was going to sustain itself. Okay, so pay as you feel. It's a community cafe, but it has the pay as you feel side to it. So pay as you feel is not about a free meal. It's not about just coming in and getting a free dinner. It's about getting people to value the food that they're eating, value the time put into it, value the effort that's been put into creating that meal, and pay accordingly. So what they feel their meal is worth, what they feel that they can afford. If they can't pay with cash, we have a lot of people that come into the cafe that can't pay with cash, so they volunteer. They do washing up. They help us unload crates. They just give their time in other ways. I also wanted it to be a real community hub, so more like a community centre with good food than just a restaurant. That's what we made. That's our little cafe. We opened in April 2015, so that was 3 months after I came back with the idea to start it. Everything was donated. We got kitchen donated by Howden's Joinery, flooring, time put into it. Teenagers came and painted. A local teenager came and painted the sign for us that's still up there. Another friend made us loads of fairy lights. We then raised £5,000 with the crowdfunding campaign that paid for contractors and flooring and essentials, plumbing. And that was it. April 2015, we had our open day. We wouldn't be what we are without food interceptions. That was one day's collection from 2 supermarkets. Last year was difficult. When we first opened last year, it was difficult. We were collecting from small shops, market gardens, private donations. Our local Londis has been signed up in Bethesda since day one. They've been brilliant. But just before Christmas, Hugh's War on Waste was on the TV. Did anybody see that? And that kind of kick-started a major drive towards reducing food waste. And he highlighted 2 supermarkets, Morrison's and Waitrose. And almost overnight, their policies changed. So all of a sudden, they decided that they were going to give their unsold food to us. I'd been badgering Waitrose since last year. When I finally got invited by them to go and have a meeting, they said, oh, would you like to share we'd like to share our food with you. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, I've only been asking you for the last 8 months. And they looked at their emails and said, oh yeah, we have got a record of you contacting us several times. Yeah. So now we have a contract with Waitrose to collect their unsold food. We also have a contract with Morrison's to collect theirs. So this is a combination of Morrison's and Waitrose. This contributed to the crisp mountain of Bethesda, which is slowly going down. We do still have the bread mountain of Bethesda. This planet bakes far too much bread. And we also get donations from private donors. People come in with a bag of like pulses or nuts or something and say, oh, can you use these? Yeah, we'll use anything, pretty much. More food interceptions. So just boxes of cakes, 2 crates of broccoli because it was over-ordered by the supermarket. Aldi at Christmas. So I was on my way back from London and I got a phone call as I was driving into Bethesda on Christmas Eve, and lots of Facebook messages saying, you've got to get to Aldi, you've got to get to Aldi. And I was like, I've only just got back from London. Okay, we'll sort it out. 6 carloads turned up. 6 carloads of meat, turkeys, vegetables, bread, you name it. We're just coming to the end of the meat that we collected at Christmas. So we also collect stats for the Real Junk Food Project because we're part of a national network, which now is about it must be approaching 150 different projects that are running pay-as-you-feel cafes across the UK and the world now. So we collect statistics on a quarterly basis, how many people we feed, how much food we intercept. We're on 900,000 grams of food. We weigh it in grams. I've got a nice little... this was rushed, not by me, and somebody sent me this that they've done. You can't really see the writing, can you? The 35% is fruit and vegetables. So our 900,000 grams, the 35% is fruit and vegetables. The 21% is dry store stuff, baked beans. 6 crates of baked beans. We've got a baked bean mountain as well. 11% bakery, like I said, too much bread. And then the others are kind of broken down, but they're our main things. So things like tins of beans, tins of spaghetti, broccoli, like crates of it over-ordered, carrots. But the cafe is more than that. People come in. Last year was quiet. We were open for about 4 months. A lot of things happened last year, so we closed up for a period of time. We also had to do some building. We got a lottery grant to fit an extraction system in our basement kitchen that we had to do to comply with health and safety. That's all been finished. And everything got a little bit delayed. So we reopened again in February. So those stats are taken from the beginning of February. So that's 2 months, really. Now, we are feeding about 30 to 40 people a night. We're open Tuesday to Friday because most of our staff are volunteers, so we pay key staff expenses. We pay, like Ella, my lovely assistant in the audience, is paid through Jobs Growth Wales. We have a couple of other young people that are paid through schemes that are working with us and learning work-based skills. Apparently the dole know all about us. Every time somebody goes into the dole office and says, can we volunteer for a project? They say, pay-as-you-feel cafe. So they know about us because we've got so many long-term unemployed coming in and lending a hand and just wanting to be part of the project. We found ourselves providing quite a lot of mental health support. So we have 2 volunteers that have Asperger's. We have 3 volunteers that are ADHD. We are a natural kind of social point for people with issues. We have quite a lot of local, the drug and alcohol abusers coming in for their main meal, and that's great because that means that they're getting a hot meal a day, whereas they might not be. So we have that group of people coming in and sit alongside the more affluent in the community. It breaks down the barriers. It makes everybody feel part of the same community and not discriminated against. Because people, it's very easy to be marginalised in a community when you've got problems or issues. And people say, there was a kid that sat outside the cafe and we went and spoke to him and said, why don't you come in and drink your drink? Because it's cold out there, it's raining. And he said, that place is for the druggies. And we're like, no, it's for everybody. And we kind of got the group of kids to come and sit in there and like, it's nice and warm and cosy in here, isn't it? And we were all chatting and it was all friendly. We have weekly sewing and upcycling classes. That brings in a really big mixture as well. So we have a big home education group that comes in with all the kids to make stuff. And then other members of the community, people that are socially isolated that come in and just want to be part of it. I mean, we've got some great, they come in with their sewing machines to learn skills. They learn how to sew. They just hang out. We've got sofas, everybody hangs out and chats. They sit and play music. Well, until the lady that lives upstairs complains about us, which she does all the time. But we had the photographer from the Real Junk Food Project come and visit us. She's like the official photographer for the whole UK. And she was just amazed at how friendly and warm and comfortable the place was. She said it was one of the happiest and just comfortable places that she'd been to across the UK in the projects that she'd finished. She said the cafe had such a lovely vibe and it was really laid back, and that's what we've worked really hard to create. The first quote was from one of the kind of local drug addicts that comes in. She comes in every day for her meal, and I heard her saying this to the photographer, because the photographer said, "Why do you come here?" And she said, "This is my lifeline. I wouldn't go out if it wasn't for here." And that's what we want people to do. We want people to feel like they can come in and be part of the community. And on that note, because we do make some lovely food as well, that's all I've got to say. We've created this really nice community space, and I'm really proud of it and all the people that are volunteering and working in there. Thank you.